Welcome to another episode of It's Not Me, It's My Hormones podcast. I'm Sabrina, and today we're going to deep dive into a topic that's been a part of my own healing journey, PCOS and childhood trauma, healing from the inside out. This episode is for you if you ever felt the weight of both emotional and physical struggles, especially when it comes to PCOS and how childhood trauma can affect your overall well-being. If you're like me and you spent years feeling like something is missing in your healing process, whether it's PCOS or other health issues, also if you experience trauma, and if you experience these two things, you might have wondered if they were ever connected to each other. Today, I want you to understand the link between PCOS and childhood trauma, and how healing from both can be such a liberating feeling. Let's take a deep breath together. And dive into this journey of healing and understanding. Before we explore the signs of PCOS and trauma, I want to share a bit of my own personal experience with you. My mom had me at 16 years old, and I remember her struggling a lot with her ovarian health throughout all my adolescent life. Eventually, she underwent a hysterectomy when I was just 16 years old. I also had cousins who had very similar experiences, and it deeply affected me. As a child, I feared that I would eventually face these similar health problems, from fertility problems to hormonal imbalances, and perhaps even having to have a hysterectomy myself, since it was so common in the female line of my family. But my own struggles with PCOS weren't just about the fear of following their footsteps. It was the day-to-day challenges that I would face. I remember how painful it was to have hair on my chin and on my neck, and how self-conscious it made me feel. I also struggled with awful acne that made me feel like I couldn't escape the physical toll of PCOS. My periods were unbearable too. I had my first period at 9 years old, and I remember being so scared to tell anybody that I got my period. I didn't even know what it was, to be honest with you, because I was just so young. I wasn't anywhere near my mom at that time because I went on vacation with my grandmother on my father's side, and we were coming home from North Carolina to go back home to Pennsylvania, which is where I'm originally from. And I remember just freaking out that there was something wrong with my body, and I always knew from that moment, just having it so young, that I was always going to have some type of issue with my body, especially when it came to my ovarian health. The emotional weight of these physical changes is something that I always carried fear for a very long time. That fear lingered in me for such a long time, and it wasn't just the physical symptoms that ran in my family, but it was also an emotional fear of repeating the same cycles, of feeling like there is something wrong with me and my body. It wasn't until I was older, until I started my own journey with PCOS, that these fears had deep emotional roots to them. As I began to heal emotionally, I saw how much connected it was to my physical health, and I want to share that healing process with you. Now, let's dig into the science behind this. PCOS, as you know, is a hormonal condition that affects women. It leads to things like irregular periods, acne, excessive weight gain, fatigue, and so much more. But what happens when we layer trauma on top of that? The key here is stress. Trauma, especially early childhood trauma, is like an emotional wound that stays with us. When we experience trauma, we put our bodies in a constant state of fight or flight. This means we're producing high levels of stress hormones such as cortisol, and as we continue to live in this heightened state of stress, it doesn't just affect our emotional well-being, it affects our physical health. For women with PCOS, stress can significantly worsen symptoms. When we have chronic stress and elevated cortisol levels, it can lead to insulin resistance, higher inflammation, and even trigger autoimmune disease. This disrupts our hormone balance and makes PCOS symptoms harder to manage. What's even more interesting is the connection between the trauma we experience in our early lives and the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis in our brains. This system plays an important role in regulating our hormonal imbalance, and when trauma interferes with it, it can make our hormonal imbalance even worse. It's important to acknowledge the emotional and physical symptoms of PCOS and trauma don't just overlap, they magnify each other. Women with PCOS often face depression, anxiety, and mood swings. And when you layer the effects of childhood trauma, it can make you feel like you're carrying an even heavier emotional burden. Trauma can manifest in so many ways, whether it's unresolved grief, a fear of abandonment, or even PTSD. But it's not just the emotional symptoms that overlap. Physical symptoms like chronic inflammation, skin issues, weight gain, irregular periods are exacerbated by the trauma we carry in our bodies. When we experience trauma, it often gets trapped in our cells, our nervous systems, and it shows up physically in the form of these symptoms. I can only speak from my own experience. Once I began working through some of my emotional wounds, I noticed that the physical symptoms started to ease in my PCOS. It was as if my body was finally able to relax and just hit the reset button. This mind-body connection is something I truly believe in, and I want to show you how it's possible for you to do as well. So, how do we begin to heal both PCOS and childhood trauma at the same time? How do we address both the emotional and physical sides of our health? The key is healing from the inside out, starting with the emotional wounds and working through them, but also supporting your body as it releases trauma. It's a holistic approach that looks at your body from a whole person perspective. Here are some ways that can help you on your journey. The first thing I'm going to suggest is trauma-informed therapy. If you experience childhood trauma, finding a trauma-informed therapist is an absolute game changer. Approaches like EMDR or somatic therapy can help release the trauma that's stored in your body. This isn't just talking about your experiences, it's about processing the trauma on a deeper cellular level. Mindfulness techniques like meditation are incredibly helpful when navigating through PCOS and trauma. Meditation can help regulate your nervous system, lower cortisol levels, and help calm the body and mind. Even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, it can make the biggest difference, I promise. For me, meditation has been such a powerful tool in how I manage stress, especially when it comes to trauma. You can heal through Reiki and energy work. For those that don't know, Reiki is a gentle, non-adhesive technique that helps clear blockages in your energy system. It allows your body to release emotional and physical tension, which can help bring your hormones back to harmony and balance. As a Reiki practitioner, I can tell you that energy work can be so transformative in your PCOS healing. I send healing to my younger self, especially when I'm doing Reiki to my own body, or I'll even ask my Reiki practitioner that I go to help. I'm going to share with you a personal Reiki experience that I've had in terms of healing my PCOS and childhood trauma. It wasn't long ago, maybe a few months ago, that I've been feeling a little hard on myself, especially on my body, due to the condition that I have. I not only have PCOS, but I also have endometriosis, so I don't know if I feel things more or my symptoms are more heightened than a woman with PCOS. I'm not quite sure. But I was getting very hard on myself, and I was thinking about the time that I received my first period at 9 years old. And I realized from that moment, I just always had this fear, or even put the intentions out that I was going to have something wrong with my body. And it was like a wake-up call for me to realize that. But in order for me to help heal little Sabrina from 9 years old, I asked my Reiki practitioner to help me during a Reiki session to send healing to that part of my life. And it's been a few months later, and I will say that I don't feel anymore like there's something wrong with my body. I'm really learning to love and appreciate my PCOS, and the symptoms that flare up now, it's not, oh, I always knew it was going to be something wrong with me since I was 9. That's 20 years of living like that. No, instead I'm realizing, okay, what is my body telling me that I need to change? What do I need to work on? And for me, sending healing to my younger self has been so transformative, because I'm not in that narrative anymore that well, yeah, of course that something's wrong with me because I've had my period at 9 years old. I definitely had hormonal balances. I had a hairy chin at 10. No, not anymore. And so for me, Reiki has been the biggest blessing. And I also send it to other parts of my life, especially with childhood trauma, because we're not all perfect. No one's childhood is perfect. So it's been very transformative. Next thing is self-care and nourishment. When healing from trauma, self-care has to be an essential part of your daily routine. Please do that for yourself. This can mean anything from journaling, even having a walk outside in the morning, getting that vitamin D in, soothing baths with essential oils, or even eating very nourishing meals. Your body needs you to nurture it so it can heal. When we nurture ourselves, our bodies respond positively. And lastly, nourishment and lifestyle choices. There are certain foods that have healing properties that can support your hormonal balance. Omega-3 rich foods like salmon, anti-inflammatory foods like turmeric, and healthy fats from avocados can reduce inflammation and support overall health. Consider adopting a diet that nourishes your mind and your body. Let's talk about some practical steps that you can take right now to heal both your PCOS and the trauma you experience. Number 1, start journaling. Begin writing any thought, emotion, or memories that arise when you think about your childhood or your overall health. Journaling is an incredible tool to help process and release emotions that otherwise might stay buried. Number 2, practice grounding exercises that help reconnect your body and calm your nervous system. Whether it's deep breathing, yoga, or simply walking barefoot, these exercises help release the tension that you may not even realize that you've been holding on to. Thirdly, find support and community. You don't have to do this alone. Look for support groups or online community. Healing is easier when you have others who are walking the same path as you. Lastly, be kind to yourself. Healing takes time. We all know that. You might feel like it's a slow process, and that's okay. Celebrate small victories and give yourself compassion. It's important to remember that this journey isn't linear. To close today's episode, I want to remind you that healing both PCOS and childhood trauma is possible. The two are deeply interconnected, but by addressing both with love, patience, and care, you can experience profound changes in your health and in your life. Healing is a journey that requires time. I'm always going to say this, it requires so much time, but remember, you are worthy of it. You are not alone in this process. Take small steps every day, trust your body, and know that healing isn't just about fixing what is broken. It's about embracing the journey and becoming more whole. Thank you for being here today and sharing this space with me. Remember, healing is a journey, and every step you take brings you closer to balance and peace. Until next time, take care of yourself and know that you're never alone in this journey. Sending so much love and light to you. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you never miss an episode. I have so many empowering topics coming up that will help guide you in your PCOS healing journey. Visit my blog for more in-depth resources, tips, and stories at itsnotmeitsmyhormones.net. I share articles, recipes, and holistic practices that has helped me so much in my healing journey. Follow me on Instagram at itsnotme.it's.my-hormones for daily inspiration, practical advice, and a space where we connect and support one another. Thank you so much. Until next time.